Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul,
And we are SP Film Viewers.
and in today's episode, we'll be talking about Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So, before this film even came out, I had sort of a phase where I was really into everything about the whole concept behind Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because it was a comic series that was based off this. And I remember there being like a PlayStation 3 download game, sort of like an arcade style beat 'em up. I think that's pretty cool.
Okay, so like a little bit like a
Bit like a
Street
Street Fighter, or was it Double Dragon or something, where it's like you have to fight a certain amount of enemies and then you progress through the screen and the screen moves
Oh,
along.
I know what you're meaning. Yeah.
It's something like along those lines. So so I had a phase where I was really obsessed with all to know about it, reading the comics and all that stuff. So I had high expectations for this one. I knew there was this film coming out.
You did say that this one you were still like when we rewatched it, you was quite excited to watch.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this in a good while, so I was quite excited to revisit this one.
Obviously, it's one of Paul's that is on his list that I've never seen. And I did ask him nicely this time if we could have a light-hearted
one, yeah.
hearted one. So it's a Universal Studio production.
Yeah, which happens to have a little retro, introduction at the start.
It's like graphics. A game, isn't it, really? Yeah. It's like popping up and it's like
8-bit graphics and the music from like a retro game.
So I quite enjoyed that, and I was like, oh, this is... I kind of commented straight away, didn't I, that there was something a bit different about it. Basically, from what I've gathered, it's a 22-year-old, drippy, nerdy, geeky, lanky guy called Scott, which is dating a beautiful and lovely 17-year-old Chinese girl called Knives, and Scott's in a band. So that's kind of like your concept on the main part.
Introduction to them.
So it's got quite a few people in here that I actually kept on writing down. People that I knew. I was like, we paused quite a bit because I was like, oh, I know this person and I can't remember.
Yeah, from all the films you've probably seen throughout this year and previous years.
Or even together. Like TV series as well.
Yeah, exactly. That when we're watching this, there's loads of people.
But look, I love how I named them. So what I've wrote is Scott's roommate is, I was like, I'm sure he looks like the guy from Home Alone, but is not exactly like him.
No, I said it was his brother, actually his brother.
Which, he looks like his twin. He's like, literally like...
You can tell from the same family.
Yeah. Then, Scott's sister is Poppy from the Trolls. Now, you're going to laugh at me, because I know she's in other things like, is it Pitch Perfect?
Yeah.
And such. But for me, she's Poppy from the Trolls.
The mother voice.
It's the voice, yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got, later on, Captain America.
One of the exes.
Evil exes.
Which is part of the main storyline.
And you've got Julie, who is one of Scott's friend's exes. And she is from Parks and Recs, and she's April.
Mm-hmm. And you've also got Captain Marvel as well.
Oh, yeah, but see, weirdly, when I'm looking at her, I don't think I'd have got that if you hadn't have told me.
Yeah, it's because youngish at that point, yeah.
Yeah, so, she doesn't seem to have developed into her, how she looks.
It is her, but yeah, I know what you mean. Somehow she doesn't quite look how she does now. I don't know why that is, considering.
It was like, I'd have probably thought, she looks familiar, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I definitely know you. You know, that kind of feeling.
Yeah, whereas, also Chris Evans, Captain America, he looks a lot younger here than he does. He does look a lot in that role, but
a lot younger. But he still looks like himself, if that makes sense. Yeah. But just a younger version. Which actually, I think I prefer him older.
Yeah, exactly.
He's aged quite a bit
nicely.
better.
Yeah. And I think his acting has improved, because I think at this point he was a bit of a joke. It seemed
weird.
A bit like a Matthew McConaughey type thing. All he did was rom-coms, and then he started to get a bit better as he's gone with his career.
Well, for me, it seemed a bit strange because all I know him as is mainly Captain America. That's my go-to who I know him as. So when I saw him in this kind of weirdish role, it was like, he seems a bit goofbally and a bit cheesy and stuff. And I know Captain America is, but he's like a bit of a sweetheart, isn't he, really? And he's like the old traditional gentleman. So to see him in a different role was a little bit strange, and his acting was weaker as well.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a big fan of Scott's character throughout this film, even though he's the main character. And I do like the movie itself, but I just don't get how a guy like him gets so many girls. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the guy, the lead singer, the talent, he doesn't seem like a drippy guy, does he? Seem like what would be classed as a hipster type
yeah,
kind of vibe with his plaid shirts and all that stuff. But yeah, and I get what you mean by Scott himself. I think what annoys me about the film, if there's any gripes I have with it, is that I wish he was played by somebody else. I feel like he's the way that, because Michael Cera normally plays these lanky, drippy characters in thing. I can never a bit like you see how you take certain actors and in roles, you always sort of see them in that sort of that role in particular.
Yeah, like I always say, like Rachel from Friends.
Yeah.
Like every role she's in, I still think she's Rachel.
Yeah, exactly. Or and Jack Black being Colin, yeah.
And then
stuff
obviously
like that.
there's my favourite guy,
Adam Sandler.
Which, then when we see him in something else that's serious, it's like, Jesus, this is even worse than his normal funny comedy.
Which I don't get how that works.
God.
So, yeah, I think I can't get past that with him. And it kind of annoys me that, like you say, it's like, oh, how's this guy getting all these women seemed like...
Right, for him, like, I understand if he was, like, drop dead gorgeous, but he's not. And it's not even got, like, it's not like he's even missed personality.
No, not really.
So it is...
Whereas in the comics, I feel like he comes... I know he's a cartoon character in that and all that stuff, but I can imagine someone a bit more, nerdy but cool looking, and that would work for me if that was portrayed in a real
So
live
who would
action.
you, in hindsight, want him to be?
I think if it was recast now, because I can't really think of anybody at that point who was young enough to be and to fit that role, but I think now if it was recast, it would be maybe Tom Holland, Spider-Man, young Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Because he is good looking, but he's a bit geeky at the same time, but he's quite young, but it's wrong for me to think he's really, really dishy, but he is, in a weirdish way.
Yeah.
You could kind of see the appeal, whereas with this guy, I just, like his hair, I'm just like, what is that? Now, actually, the young Neil, is it young Neil?
Yeah, young Neil, yeah. He's
quite alright. Like,
okay.
I'm thinking, well, out of all of them, I'm thinking young Neil seems like the nicest guy, and he don't look too bad to look at. So it's like, so why isn't he kind of more the main sweet character?
Yeah, he's just a background character, isn't he, really?
Yeah, he is.
Poor guy.
But really, to be getting all these girlfriends, like he's apparently, like, Scott's broken so many hearts, and it's like, how? Don't understand. He even dated his drummer, in his band called, is Kim, is it?
Yeah, Kim, yeah.
And so you can see that there's still a little bit of like a love-hate thing, because like once you break up with somebody, it's never going to be normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think you really can be friends with somebody that you've broken up with. Well, personally for me, it hasn't worked that way. So I did notice as well, initially you were saying to me they were more like comic book styles, like with the ding-dongs and...
Yeah, the sound effects of normal things, like phones ringing and all that stuff, there's that going on. Then
I noticed as well, like he was in the bar and it was a case of he had to be asked a question and he was like, oh, I need to go pee. And he had like this, like you'd have like a hunger bar in a game.
Yeah,
Like on Sims. Like if you need to pee, you need to go to the toilet. Yeah. If you're hungry, you need to go for your food. So it was more like the game side of it was kicking in a little bit as well. Yeah. I really, really, really enjoyed, and I've put it down here because I saw him, Scott and Knives, doing the dance mat. I absolutely loved dance mats when I was younger. I actually had one in my living room. Not like an arcade one. Not like an arcade one, but I think it was only PS whatever.
One, I think it must have been. Yeah.
And you can plug it in, and then it was like this fabricated thing. And me and Sarah had one. Yeah. And I loved it. It was I was a bit of a chubby kid. It was the only exercise I ever did was this dance machine. It was the best investment my mum and dad could have ever got to get me actually moving. And I loved it. So when I saw them doing that, I was like, I just want to find somewhere that has a dance machine and I want you to come on it with me.
Don't
And
think
for
I'd
me
be
to
very
see
good.
what you look like.
Yeah. I think I'd be like him in the second time around when you see him doing it, where he's not really moving up.
Not very good hand-eye coordination
Nation.
kind of thing.
All that stuff. No, I'm not. Well, I'll get some of it. I'd try my best, but I don't think I'd be like getting high scores or anything with it.
Oh, you'd be well impressed with me. You'd be floored.
Yeah.
If I still have got it, that is. So I did really enjoy the dance mat scene initially when they were with him and Knives. They seemed to get along quite well, and that she even did the back roll flip on him and such. It was brilliant.
Mad skills.
Yeah. But then somehow this weird turn comes into the story and you don't really get what the true story is until this woman arrives, Ramona.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the problem, isn't she?
Yeah, she appears in a vision and in his dream becomes a reality.
He just stumbles across her. I actually prefer Knives. I don't think there's much about her that's appealing. I don't know from your perspective. I think she's got a little bit of a Katy Perry look.
Right, okay.
She's like this mysterious kind of woman that appeals to Scott.
Yeah.
So obviously Scott's had many girlfriends. So kind of gets a little bit weird from here because they're in a band, so they seem to have like battles, band battles.
Yeah, battle of the bands, yeah.
And then out of nowhere, this man starts like, and I said to you, didn't I? Was like, is this actually happening? I don't actually know now because this man just like comes out of the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, you at this point you do have some kind of, like I said, comic book style effects and motions and stuff, but this is where it really
levels up, hey?
Yeah, kick starts into the whole fantasy element of this whole scenario where suddenly now Scott's like can punch him and knock him back.
I have said that he's overpowered. He's like this weakly dripping man, and it's like no way can he fight all these 7Xs. It's just not possible with the way that he looks. It's like he needs to go to the gym or something to get to a point of where he can actually have that stamina. He's like Pikachu. That's
the thing that I've coined for it, really, because of how I think that Pikachu, particularly in the anime, really, because that's where he seems so overpowered. Everything he fights seems to just be one-shotted, and it's like, how is that? That doesn't make sense in the logic of the games, but...
Now, I think it's okay with Pikachu, because he's cute, and he's the mascot kind of thing. He's, like, the main character, and he's, like, obviously going to be promoted. But that's fine, because he's cute, and he has got that lovability about him. Yeah, so, it's like, but with Scott, it's like, it's even more frustrating and annoying, because he's not cute. It's not, like... He's not even likeable as a character. He cheats on Knives...
Yeah.
Who actually really, really just generally... So, like, Knives says she loves him and then he goes, I don't want to be with you anymore, and breaks up with her. Who does that? This poor 17-year-old girl has fallen in love with him. It's probably her first guy that she's ever loved. And then he just is like, dumps her for Ramona. I've been there plenty of times where people have dumped me for other people, and it is not nice. So I definitely could sympathise with her there.
Yeah, of course.
So... This 7X thing, it's a bit excessive. Like, part of me thinks, like, would you even go to the effort? If I don't have 7Xs, by the way. You wouldn't have to fight that many.
Okay. And what about, how many?
Maybe 2?
Okay. That might be manageable, yeah.
A bit more realistic.
Yeah. Are you saying would I go to the effort of fighting 7?
7, yeah, X's for me.
Depends how muscular they were and how...
Oh no, they're going to be muscular, obviously. Would you bother?
Well, if I had superpower strength like he seems to do, then maybe I'd have a fighting chance where... True. In this reality of thing where you can just punch people and get coins from smashing them.
Yeah, that sounds appealing, that does.
Yeah.
So, there is that. It's like, is she even worth all the hassle he's going through? It's like, I just... don't know if I could be bothered with it, if that makes sense. All the drama, it's like I had a nice happy life with Knives, nothing was complicated or anything like that, and now we've got this mysterious woman who every time I go out somewhere this random person wants to fight me, and it's like couldn't be bothered. So One of the exes is Lucas Lee, which is Captain America.
Like we mentioned before, yeah.
He's quite a weird character, and he's got this skateboard, and I thought it was quite funny that he's got this skateboard because further down the line he has a shield, and it's like he has to have a prop. The only 2 movies I've seen him in, he has to have something in his hands.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, yeah.
So that did kind of crop into my head.
To be fair, he doesn't always have to have a prop with him when he's acting in films he does
Maybe
nowadays.
he feels insecure and needs something.
Safety blanket.
Yeah. There is obviously another part to the film where Scott has this ex that's now, like, famous.
Yeah, who's Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she's a singer, and she's like... It's just like me dating Ed Sheeran before he came famous, and then him becoming famous, and then not wanting anything to do with me.
How would that make you feel if you were even dating him in the first place? Would that make you happy? But then sad at the same time because he left you?
Well, I'd be happy that I was dating him.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably end up not liking him. And I'd be sick of hearing his music everywhere I went, to be fair.
Yeah.
It'd be like, well, what's he
No
got fame?
escaping, yeah.
And then you just dumped me for no reason. Because you're selfish. I'm not bitter at all. I would be. I'd be proper annoyed. Well, there's this guy, I forgot his name, but I know he's a vegan. This is one of the other exes.
I want to say it's Todd.
Yeah, I think it begins
Todd,
with
yeah,
T.
I think it is Todd.
So it's like not dissing anybody who is a vegan or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't give you super strength and superpowers and it makes your hair glow. It might make your hair glow. It might do, because it might be more healthy nutrition, you know. There might be something in that one. But
definitely doesn't make you, you know...
Eyes glow
and everything, and manipulate you to pick up like telekinesis type thing where you can push things through walls.
And he could read his mind.
Yeah.
And if it's a case that this is a thing for vegans and they're all just doing this and they're not actually telling you, well, that's another thing coming, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then we've got... I really enjoyed this third battle with the guitar. I don't know if you kind of... You have different chords, don't you? Yeah. And it was like D, 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 D when they were playing it.
The bass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that was kind of linking to what chord they were on when they were like doing the animation of like the
the sound waves. Probably, possibly, I don't know. But again, it was more Scott was doing it on like the very basic dun, 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 whereas Todd was doing the more complex, what you can do with the bass to make it more like groovy and...
groovy.
And more, you know, it doesn't have to be just a basic bass line, it can be a bit more...
When you say groovy, all I've got is groovy baby in my head.
Groovy baby.
Never heard you say groovy before. So, that's proper tickled me. There is a fourth ex, which Ramona normally says exes, whereas Scott says ex-boyfriends, which obviously is incorrect. Women can, and men can decide whatever sex they want. They can have different exes. It doesn't have to just be boyfriends.
Yeah.
So there is an ex-girlfriend, which Ramona ends up fighting on behalf of Scott, because Scott apparently won't punch a girl, and I'm thinking at this point he's just like sick to death of having to fight somebody, and he's like, that's just an excuse. It's not really like he's not wanting to fight a girl, I think. So I feel like that's like a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, but he does have to fight with Ramona being like puppet master there, like making him punch her or kick her or whatever.
But, so I think that one loses its touch
a little bit.
Yeah.
And the way he wins the fight is by touching the back of her knee.
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird one to gain coins.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot worse, to be honest. It was touching somewhere else.
What rate is it? 12?
12, yeah.
So you've got, which is quite good, because I think after a bit it does get a little bit repetitive of these exes popping up. They kind of kill two birds in one stone with this one, and she dates twins, which kind of...
It's a question, how does that work? But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if she dated one and then dated the other.
At the same time.
Or at the same time.
Or got confused.
Got a little bit of a reputation, I think, hasn't she?
Yeah.
So this is another, like, band battle. But
yeah, but these two are more, like, almost like
DJs?
DJ ones, so...
Yeah, but then they're still doing their own bassy
they're
guitar thing.
using like just the speakers, the effects to make these twin dragon things to come and attack.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, it's quite good.
I've noticed it does have quite a bit of Chinese kind of within it. So obviously you've got the knives and the fact of the way that they've kind of stereotypicalised her. So like she's the 17-year-old schoolgirl hair,
which is what Scott's sisters at the start mentions. Like, oh come on, that's just so cliches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she does look like just like a typical Chinese like schoolgirl.
Yeah.
So then we meet Gideon,
who's at this event with the twins.
And Ramona seems to always fall back in love with him. It's like one of those bad relationships that you're just on and off and constantly going back to somebody but you don't know why, because you don't want to. Turns out later he's put like a microchip in the back of her head or something. That he's like claimed her or something. And he's owning her in a sense.
Yeah, something like that.
But she says, obviously, well, like somewhat hypnotised her, I'm not sure. So basically, Ramona dumps Scott at this point to go back with Gideon.
Yeah.
Which always a sleazeball, isn't he?
Yeah, he comes across that way, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, come on, if I'd have had none of your exes, to be fair. But if I had to pick between Scott and Gideon, I'd probably have picked Scott.
Mm-hmm.
It does then come into like this quite cool little battle. So you've had like, it feels like a game where you kind of gradually get to a point of where you start off easy.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah, because it's like at the start when Scott's like probably beating the first one up and it's really easy and it doesn't take that long.
After the fourth one, he's getting a bit fed up.
Yeah.
Because the vegan one was quite intense, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a difficult mid-level range boss.
And then it seemed to be that it was getting a bit more challenging. So it seems that he definitely needs to bring more of his A game with this one. It seems as well like, you know, like in Skyrim, you can kind of do like little, probably in any other game, but my reference is like, you can level up your health, your stamina, your magic.
Yeah.
And you can kind of like choose like at the beginning what kind of character you want to be.
Skills and that kind of
skills
stuff.
And matrix and stuff like that. So initially,
once he defeated the twins, he also got an extra life, didn't he?
He leveled up.
Yeah,
he did. He leveled up.
Yeah, because that's kind of important for what happens in this fight.
He seems to say that he loves Ramona, and he levels up and gets a love sword to help him defeat Gideon.
That sounds a bit wrong when you say that.
Well, that's what it said in the corner. So he's able to try and defeat Gideon. But in the end, Scott actually dies. It's like game over. Gideon kills him. But like a normal game, you can persevere through when you die. Which is not like real life. Just so you know. Once you're dead, you're dead. But in the game, you can retry until you're fed up, basically. So it's like game over, but retry again, which I thought was really funny. And this time, it's like 2 players decide to defeat Gideon the boss.
Yeah, he approaches it a bit differently.
He gets knives to help him defeat Gideon. They KO him in the end.
Yeah.
Because Knives actually comes in and tries to, in the middle of the love one, take down Ramona.
Yeah.
And then he retries again and he apologises to Knives. Says it was his fault for cheating on her and that it's not Ramona. And that Ramona didn't actually steal him away from her. And he gets a Mega Scott solo round.
After he defeats Gideon, yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought was quite funny because it's like, it definitely feels like in the end it's more like a game you're watching.
This play out, yeah.
Than an actual movie. It's literally kind of slowly, gradually ramped up to this game. So like when you were saying more comic, there was a bit of a comic book strip showing Ramona's like past relationship history.
Yeah, definitely that, because that is, I believe, literally taken from the comics themselves.
Oh, have they?
Yeah,
that's quite cool.
Yeah.
But then I feel like there's a strong game.
It's like a mix of both, but sort of bringing it into a live action.
Yeah, which sense. I heavily liked.
Yeah, the stylistic choice of this is really good. They really stand out.
It's something I haven't seen before in a film, really, as well. I haven't seen something like this before. I don't know if there is, but I haven't seen something out there that does do this.
No, I can't rightly off the top of my head think of anything else that's quite like this either, really, that works in.
The only other thing I was thinking of, but I haven't actually seen it, was relating to that Pac-Man or Pixel. But that's more your game characters. This isn't actually based on... It's just more game-like scenarios things.
Yeah, certainly don't think you'd be watching it because your favourite actor's in it.
Is it?
Yes. And some of his other fellow...
Douchebags.
Although I think there's Tyrion in it.
Oh, why have they put him with everybody else? They have to basically paid him the most money, haven't they?
Don't know.
Probably.
No, probably Adam Sandler probably got the biggest cut, of course.
You could.
I don't know.
No, seriously, no. He shouldn't even get paid for acting. It shouldn't be allowed. Is that rubbish? It should just be allowed to do it as a hobby. Shouldn't give him money praising him. Anyways, Ramona says that Scott is the nicest guy. And weirdly in the end, I always seem to want a different ending to films. I don't know what my head wants. Obviously, legitimately, you would assume that Scott and Ramona should walk off into the sunset. He's defeated all the 7 X's.
Yeah, that's his reward for the end of it, yeah.
But I didn't want that to happen.
No, I kind of get what you mean by that, because maybe it would be like, maybe you should have realised at the start you didn't really need her. It was Knives all along that he should have really been focusing on, but...
Yeah, because Knives were there for him even when she didn't need to be. She always had his back, and what did Ramona actually bring forth to him in that relationship apart from grief and hassle?
Yeah.
Whereas Knives was genuinely in love with him. Like, I still don't think Ramona felt as strongly about him as Knives did.
She kind of did, but it wasn't the same sort of love and admiration. I guess she was a bit more of a harder character, I'd say, to,
crack in a sense. Yeah. So I do think I would have actually, if I were him, or if he was my son, and I had a choice of him bringing home Ramona or Knives, I'd definitely want him to bring home Knives. Ramona would just not be a character for me that I could see me being happy with my son dating.
Right, okay.
The fact that she's put him through hell and then dumped him and then said, right, I'll leave you to be happy, kind of thing. And it's like, well, what was the point in all of that then if I'm not going to be with you? Just done all this and then I still don't get, like, the trophy, so to speak. So I get why it ended that way, but actually I think Knives was genuinely more loving. So I think that's pretty much everything in a nutshell of the film.
Say nutshell, but I've gone on for a while, but yeah.
I do really like the comic style of the game. The ding-dongs, the rings.
The game?
Yeah, it feels like a game to me.
Yeah.
Because I can actually do it a lot in the past when you've played games. Like, I can sit and watch a game and be quite happy watching it. I know you don't think you could watch me playing a game. You probably would want to take it off me and do it differently.
Yeah, I get that sometimes. But then, yeah, unless, especially if it's a game I've played a certain way, and then I'm watching you try to play it.
Thanks, Paul.
Playing it how you do it, and I'm like, no, that's not, kind of like, no, it's not how I do it, but I know that I've got to accept that sometimes that's not. People
everyone
play
does
the same. Depends on what kind of game that is, of course. If it's very linear, then you've got not much choice. But if it's open world, like Skyrim, for example. Yeah,
because you like to be right zoomed in. Like, I want to see my character. I don't want to pretend I'm in that world.
So you mean third? I don't know. I found that more engaging, but that's just...
I can't see where I'm going. It makes me dizzy.
Anyway. You like the style of the...
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen that before, personally. I think there's a lot of good in the film, and it really is light-hearted, which I did ask for. I just don't think... I don't think the character, even if you had somebody playing it differently, he would be likeable.
You think?
Yeah, because the character's not going to change, is it?
No, I maybe give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it might have, obviously, the dialogue be the same, but maybe not come across as whiny.
Maybe, yeah, because he does seem a bit pathetic, doesn't he?
Yeah, So.
And not like woe is me kind of thing, and it's like.
Yeah,
But it does bring me back to kind of like when you just graduated university. It feels like that kind of like, you're in that kind of limbo where you graduated, you thought everything was going to be amazing and you were going to get your dream job, and then you're like, oh, okay. And you kind of stepping into the real world.
It's almost the same age as the character as well. I think it was 21.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because it came out in 2010, so.
Yeah.
So I just turned 21 for July, so.
So you kind of can relate to that limbo kind of.
In a sense, yeah, I guess. But
thinking everything's going to be amazing.
Loads of girlfriends trying to,
Oh. But then it turns out I would have to, if I was going to fight not girlfriends for Paul, I'd have to fight more than mine anyway, so she did better than me.
So, ready to score the film?
Yeah, which is, I actually haven't thought about this time on.
Not as easy to do you think?
No, I don't think it is, because there is so many likeable things about the film.
Yeah.
The main part that I dislike is I just don't really like the main character, and I don't think it's the person who's acting as him. It's just don't like the character
as a whole.
Yeah. Right. He's just drippy and geeky, which is there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you can have your nerdy, geeky lovables, and I feel like he thinks he's something better than he actually is, and that frustrates me a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's like, well, you're not special, really, to be fair. But apart from that, I think everything like to the
other characters.
Knives was my favourite, and young Neil, which is so daft. I don't know why I do this. I always pick characters that are not even that.
The sideline ones.
Yeah, I do like a good sideline character. I love an underdog, and I love somebody who's genuinely a nice character to like really, really like. And I think I kind of go into the lines of who I'd want to be friends with.
Right, okay.
Or hang around with, and it's like, Scott, I don't really know what he'd bring to my life, really.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be a lot of hassle.
Oh, that comes across, but okay.
I think my score be... I know you really like this film as well. It's going to have to be a 5.
What? No, that can't be right.
No, it's not going to be. I just want to be cruel.
Okay, go. That was cruel. I'm thinking, geez, what, really?
Oh, your face was so funny. Okay.
Right, real score now, please.
I'd say an 8.
Okay, I'm going to say the same as well.
Woohoo!
I'm not going to high five now.
Right.
For that, pulling that stunt. No, I for an 8 because it is really enjoyable and it was great to rewatch it again.
It definitely has rewatchable, not to try and spot something different, but just for the
visuals of the thing. It's very bright and colourful, and so there's an attachment with around the time that this film came out, and also the stuff before it, what I said about reading the comics and everything. And it's got a great soundtrack too. But I think what lets it down is, again, like we've just been discussing about Scott himself, how he's the actor who plays him is like, I wish it were someone else, really. Everything else about them, all the other characters and everything, all solid and all that. There's nothing.
It's got quite a good cast, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those
quite broad, diverse set of people.
You can see where they've actually grown in their careers. This might have been like a stepping stone to help them further their careers.
Definitely. But
so
it's just him that sort of lets it down, really, unfortunately. But
he just seems a bit of a goofball in general, really. But I get where you're coming from with gelling, but I don't know for me personally if it would make any difference if his character wasn't a little bit nicer.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But I do think I definitely would rewatch it again. I wouldn't be any qualms in doing that. Just made me want to play old games. I think that's what I got from that.
Retro vibes.
Yeah. Definitely, it was like, I just really want to play all these games. And then it makes you wonder sometimes. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. Like, I used to love playing this game. What did I ever do? Why did I sell it? And, you get to that.
Yeah, that's why I like to keep especially nowadays, keep hold of things that are thinking, or you never know when you might be like, oh, I wish I had that old game or that
Oh, I
disc of
just end up
something or whatever.
losing them somehow. I
Yeah,
don't know why
yeah.
I feel like mine just walk off the shelf.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I know most people can do emulators of stuff these days. You know, just get it on the PC and just run it off some code or whatever. But yeah, it's not quite the same, I guess.
No, it's true.
But
so I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yep, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts.
So remember, you can listen to us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you might get your podcast from.
Yep, and also, we did do something new last week, so if you haven't had a chance to catch it, we have had an interview with a lovely Canadian.
Yep, Nick Fuerda.
So definitely go and give that a listen. It is definitely worth listening to. He's got so much insightful stuff to say, so...
Yeah, please go have a listen to that. And as always, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter under the handle SP Film Viewers. And of course, you can follow our Facebook page too.
So thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. Might give you an option of something to watch while we're in these lovely, lovely circumstances that we're going through. It might be some lightheartedness that people might need.
Yeah. So thank you once again, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.